Chapters 1 through 8 of the Book of Exodus, from the Holy Bible in Modern English. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Mark Penfold. The Holy Bible in Modern English, translated by Ferrar Fenton. The Book of Exodus, chapters 1 through 8. Chapter 1. These are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Mitzrayim, the chief, Jacob, and his family with him: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah; Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin; Dan and Naphtali; Gad and Asher. All the persons proceeding from the loins of Jacob were 70 individuals. Joseph was already in Mitzrayim. Now Joseph and all his brothers died, and all their children. But the sons of Israel were fruitful, and bred, and increased, and became very, very powerful, and the land was filled with them. Then a foreign conqueror arose over the Mitzrayim, who knew nothing of Joseph, and said to his nation, "These people, the sons of Israel, are more in number and stronger than ourselves. Therefore let us deal skillfully with them, to prevent them increasing, for it is possible they might turn upon us in war and conquer, for they hate us, and may be fighting against us and expel us from the land." They consequently placed labor masters over them to force them to build, and they built fortresses for Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramesses. But the more they oppressed them, the more they increased. Therefore they trembled and feared before the sons of Israel. Consequently the Mitzrites endeavored to crush the sons of Israel, so they embittered their lives by cruel labor in the forges, and in the brick kilns, and in every labor upon the land, by every means possible trying to crush them. The king of the Mitzrayim also summoned the midwives of the Hebrews, of whom the name of the chief was Shiphrah, and the name of her lieutenant Phuah, and decreed, "When you deliver the Hebrew women, examine their children. If it is a son, kill him; but if a daughter, let her live." But the midwives feared God, and did not do as the king of the Mitzrayim ordered them, but preserved the children alive. The king of the Mitzrayim therefore summoned those midwives again, and inquired from them, "Why have you not executed the law, but have preserved the children's lives?" When the midwives replied to Pharaoh, "Because they are not like Mitzrite women when in labor, but lively, so that before the time the midwives have come to them, they are delivered." Therefore God showed kindness to those midwives. So the people increased and were very strong, and seeing that the midwives were God-fearing, he imprisoned them. Pharaoh then commanded this people, saying, "Every boy that is born, throw him into the river, but let the girls live." Chapter 2. But there was a man of the family of Levi who married a Levite woman, and his wife conceived and bore a son. When she looked on his beauty, she hid him for 3 months. But being no longer able to hide him, she made a boat of bulrushes and pitched it with pitch and resin, and placed it in the reeds on the bank of the river. But his sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the river, and her maids walked along the bank of the stream. And they noticed the boat amongst the rushes. So she put out her hand and took it. When she opened it, she saw the lad, and he cried. And she grieved over him, and said, "It is one of the Hebrew children." Then his sister called the daughter of Pharaoh. "Shall I go and seek for you a nursing woman of the Hebrews, so that she may nurse the lad for you?" And the daughter of Pharaoh replied to her, "Go." So she went immediately and called the mother of the child, to whom Pharaoh's daughter said, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will pay you the cost." Its mother therefore took the child and nursed it. When the lad grew up, he was taken to the daughter of Pharaoh as a son, and she called his name Moshe, for she said, "I drew him out of the water." But it was long after this, when Moses had become great, that he went out to his brothers, and examined into their condition. Then he saw a Mitzrite strike a Hebrew who was related to him. Then he turned this and that way, and not seeing anyone, he struck the Mitzrite and concealed him in the sand. At another time, when he was inspecting, there were 2 men, Hebrews, quarreling. So he said to the wrongdoer, "Why do you strike your neighbor?" But he replied, "Who appointed you as foreman and judge over us? Are you going to murder me as you murdered the Mitzrite?" Then Moses was afraid, and said to himself, "That affair is known then?" The matter was also reported to Pharaoh, who endeavored to execute Moses. But Moses fled from the presence of Pharaoh, and turned to the land of Midian, where he rested beside a well. It happened that the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and these girls came to draw and fill the watering troughs to give drink to their father's sheep. Then the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses arose and prevented them and watered their sheep. So when they returned to Reuel, their father, he asked, "How is that you have returned so quickly today?" They answered him, "A Mitzrite protected us from the hand of the shepherds, and also drew and gave water to our sheep." Then he replied to his daughters, "Where is he? Why have you left the man there? Invite him and let him eat bread." Thus Moses began to stay with the man, who gave Zipporah his daughter to him. And she bore a son, and he called his name Gershom. "For," he said, "I am a stranger in a foreign land." A long time after these events, that king of the Mitzrayim died. But the children of Israel were still oppressed in their servitude, and their cries from their slavery reached God. God therefore heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, and with Isaac, and with Jacob. Therefore God looked upon the children of Israel, and God revealed himself. Chapter 3. Moses, however, was shepherding the sheep of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he had led the sheep to the far side of the desert, and came to the mountain of God in Horeb, where a messenger of the ever-living appeared to him in a flame of fire in a bush. When he looked, he saw that the bush burnt with fire, yet the bush was not consumed. Then Moses said, "I will draw near and examine this great wonder, why the bush is not burnt up." But the Lord saw that he had approached to examine it. So God called to him from the midst of Sinai and said, "Moses! Moses!" And he answered, "I am here." Then he said, "Approach not. Put off your shoes from your feet, for the place upon which you stand is holy." Then he continued, "I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Then Moses hid his face, for he feared to gaze upon God. The Lord then said, "I have seen the suffering of my people who are in Mitzrayim, and I have heard their shrieks before their drivers, and I have understood their sorrows. And I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Mitzrites, and to take them up from that country to a good land, and a spacious, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to replace the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Ivites, and Jebusites. For the cries of the children of Israel have now come to me, and I have seen the oppression with which the Mitzrites oppress them. Therefore you must go, and I will send you to Pharaoh, to bring my people, the children of Israel, up from the Mitzrayim." But Moses replied to God, "Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should lead the children of Israel up from among the Mitzrayim?" He answered, however, "Because I will be with you, therefore go. For I have sent you to lead the people from the Mitzrayim, and they shall serve God upon this mountain." Then Moses said to God, "Supposing I should go to the children of Israel, and should say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they should ask me, 'What is his name?' What am I to say to them?" When God responded to Moses, "I am what I am. Therefore say, 'I am has sent me to you.'" And God further spoke to Moses, "You shall say thus to the children of Israel, 'The ever-living God of your forefathers, the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name from eternity, and I remember this from generation to generation. Go and assemble the chiefs of Israel, and say to them, The ever-living God of your fathers has appeared to me, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and said, I have visited you, and I will save you from the Mitzrites. Therefore I command you to go from among the Mitzrites to the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey, and they will listen to your voice. Then go, you and the chiefs of Israel, to the king of the Mitzrayim, and say to him, The ever-living God of your servants has commanded us. Therefore we pray, let us go a 3 days' journey into the desert, and offer sacrifice to our ever-living God. But I know that the king of the Mitzrayim will not permit you to go except by a strong hand. Consequently I shall stretch out my hand and strike the Mitzrites with all the wonders that I will do within their bounds, and afterwards he will send you away. Then I will give this people favor in the eyes of the Mitzrites, so that it shall be, when they march, they shall not march unprovided. But every woman shall demand of her neighbor and from the guests in her house ornaments of silver and ornaments of gold, and clothing, and put them upon her sons and daughters, and shall strip the Mitzrites. Chapter 4. Then Moses answered and said, But they may not trust me and not listen to my voice, for they may say, We have never seen your God, the ever-living. God, however, asked him, What is in your hand? And he replied, A stick. And he then said, Throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from before it. But the ever-living said to Moses, Stretch out your hand and seize it by the tail. So he stretched out his hand and seized it, and it became a stick in his hand. Be certain they will believe because of that the ever-living God of their fathers appeared to you, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And continuing, the ever-living said to him, Put your hand now into your bosom. So he put his hand into his bosom, and when he drew it out, his hand was leprous like snow. Then he said, Replace your hand in your bosom. So he replaced his hand in his bosom, and took it out again from his bosom, and it returned like his other flesh. And it shall be, if they will not trust you and not listen to your voice at the first evidence, yet they will trust to your voice after the second sign. But if they do not trust you even for the second evidence, and do not listen to your voice, then take some of the water from the river and pour it out on the dry land, and there the water which you have taken from the river shall become blood on the dry ground. Moses, however, replied to the ever-living, But yet, Lord, I am not an eloquent man. I have not been so in the past, nor in this speaking between you and your servant, for I am slow of mouth and heavy of tongue. But the ever-living replied to him, Who gave a mouth to man? Or who makes dumb, or deaf, or blind, or seeing? Is it not I, the living one? So now go, and I will be with your mouth, and show you what you shall say. But he answered, Indeed, my lord, send, I pray you, by some other hand. Then the ever-living was angry with Moses, and he said, Have you not a brother, Aaron the Levite? I know that he can talk, and he is even now coming to seek you. See that you can go cheerfully with him, and speak to him, and put words into his mouth, for I will be with your mouth, and in his mouth, and will show you what you are to do, and he shall speak for you to the people. He shall be like a mouth for you, and you shall be to him in place of God. And that staff, take it in your hand, for you shall perform wonders with it. Moses therefore went and returned to Jethro his father-in-law, and said to him, I wish to go now and rejoin my relatives who are in Mitzrayim, and see if they are alive. When Jethro replied to Moses, Go in peace. The ever-living afterwards said to Moses in Midian, Go, return to the Mitzrayim, for all the men are dead who sought your life. Then Moses took his wife and his sons, and mounted them upon asses, and turned towards the land of the Mitzrayim. Moses also took the rod of God in his hand. The living one also said further to Moses, During your journey to the Mitzrayim, regard all the signs which I put unto your hand, and do them before Pharaoh. But I shall harden his heart, and he will not let the people go. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, Thus said the ever-living, Israel is my eldest son, and I say to you, Allow my son to go to serve him. And if you will not allow him, then I will slay your eldest son. But while he was upon the road at a resting place, a chieftain met him and attempted to kill him. But Zipporah took a razor and cut off the foreskin of her son, and threw it at his feet, and said, You make a blood marriage for me. So he retired from them, when she said, It is a marriage circumcision. Now the ever-living had said to Aaron, Go and seek Moses in the desert. So he went and met him at the mount of God, and kissed him. Then Moses related to Aaron all the instructions of the ever-living which he had sent to him, and the whole of the miracles which he had commanded. Then Moses and Aaron proceeded and collected all the magistracy of the children of Israel. And Aaron repeated all the matters which the ever-living had addressed to Moses, and produced evidences before the eyes of the people. And the people were convinced, and acknowledged that the ever-living had visited Israel, and that he had looked upon their sufferings. So they honored and worshipped him. Chapter 5. Then Moses and Aaron went and said to Pharaoh, "Thus says the ever-living God of Israel, send out my people that they may hold a festival to me in the desert." But Pharaoh replied, "Who is the ever-living, that I should listen to his voice to send out the Israelites? I know nothing of the ever-living, and I shall not send the Israelites out." They, however, replied, "The God of the Hebrews has summoned us. Let us go therefore 3 days' journey into the desert, and sacrifice to our ever-living God, for fear he should assail us with plague or fever." The king of the Mitzrayim said to them, "Why do you, Moses and Aaron, break off the people from their work? Go yourselves to the buildings." And Pharaoh went on to say, "The people are now too many for the land, yet you would take them away from building." Pharaoh consequently commanded on that day to the drivers and overseers, saying, "You shall not continue to give straw to these people for the bricks they make as heretofore, but let them go and collect straw for themselves. Yet the number of the bricks which they had to make heretofore lay upon them. You shall not diminish from them, for they are idle. Therefore they cry out, saying, 'Let us go and sacrifice to our God.' Increase the work upon these men, and make them do it, and not listen to absurd speeches." The drivers and overseers of the people consequently went and reported it to the people, saying thus, "Pharaoh has ordered us no more to give you straw. Therefore go, collect straw for yourselves wherever you can find it, for there is to be no diminution of your labors whatever." So the people were scattered all over the land of the Mitzrayim to seek stubble instead of straw. Yet the drivers ordered them, saying, "Complete your appointed work day by day in the production of bricks." And the overseers who were set over the children of Israel were flogged by the drivers of Pharaoh, who demanded, "Why have you not completed the stipulated number of bricks as formerly was done before this?" Then the overseers of the children of Israel appealed to Pharaoh, asking, "Why have you done this to your slaves? No straw is given to your slaves, yet they say to us, 'Make the bricks,' and your slaves are beaten, and your people injured." He, however, replied, "You are idle, you are idle. Therefore you say, 'Let us go and sacrifice to the ever-living.' So now be off, you slaves, for straw shall not be given to you, but you shall make the number of your bricks." Consequently the overseers of the children of Israel saw they were in a bad position, when he said, "You shall not diminish from the number of bricks day by day." So they assailed Moses and Aaron for inciting them to go to present themselves to Pharaoh, and said to them, "May the ever-living look upon you, and decide how you have made our breath stink in the opinion of Pharaoh, and in the opinion of his ministers, and have put a sword into their hands to slay us." Then Moses turned to the ever-living and said, "Almighty, why have you caused suffering to this people, and why have you sent me thus? And why have you sent me to Pharaoh, saying, 'I will take this people from their suffering,' when you have not delivered them?" Chapter 6. Then the ever-living replied to Moses, "Now you shall see what I will do to Pharaoh, so that with a strong hand he shall send off, and with a strong hand he shall drive them from this country." Afterwards the ever-living spoke to Moses, and said to him, "I am the ever-living, and I appeared to Abraham, and to Isaac, and to Jacob, as God Almighty, and by my name of the ever-living I did not make myself known to them. But however I made a covenant with them to give to them the land of Canaan, the land of their foreignhood, when they were foreigners in it. I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel who are enslaved by the Mitzrites, and I have remembered my covenant. Therefore say to the children of Israel, I am, the ever-living, will cause you to come out from among the burdens of the Mitzrites, and I will deliver you from your slavery, and will redeem you with a directing arm, and with great judgments, and will take you to myself for a people, and will be a God to you, and you shall know that I, your ever-living God, have brought you out from among the burdens of the Mitzrites. I will also bring you to the land which I raised my hand to give to Abraham, and to Isaac, and to Jacob, and grant you its possession. I am the ever-living." Consequently Moses repeated this to the children of Israel, but they would not listen to Moses for their anguish of spirit, and from their hard slavery. The ever-living again spoke to Moses, saying, "Go, tell to Pharaoh, king of Mitzar, that he must dismiss the children of Israel from his country." But Moses replied against the ever-living, and said, "The children of Israel themselves would not listen to me, so certainly Pharaoh will not listen to me. I am also dull in speech." The ever-living, however, commanded Moses and Aaron again, and sent them to the children of Israel, and to Pharaoh king of the Mitzrayim, to demand the release of the children of Israel from the land of the Mitzrayim. Thus the ever-living spoke to Aaron and Moses to lead the children of Israel out of the land of the Mitzrayim by their armies. He caused them, Moses and Aaron, to demand from Pharaoh king of the Mitzrayim to allow the children of Israel to go out of Mitzrayim. The ever-living was speaking daily to Moses in the land of the Mitzrayim. Thus the Lord commanded Moses, "I am the ever-living. Speak to Pharaoh king of the Mitzrayim all that I command you." But Moses replied in the face of the ever-living, "I am only slow of tongue, so Pharaoh will not listen to me." Chapter 7. The ever-living, however, answered Moses, "See, I will make you like a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your reciter. Therefore you must say all that I command you to your brother, and he shall repeat to Pharaoh that he must send the children of Israel from his country. But I will make Pharaoh's heart obstinate, and I will multiply evidences and wonders in the land of the Mitzrayim. But Pharaoh will not listen to you, so I will lay my hand upon the Mitzrites, and will bring out my people, the children of Israel, from the land of the Mitzrayim with great judgments, so that the Mitzrites may know that I am the ever-living, when I stretch out my hand over the Mitzrayim, and bring up the children of Israel from among them." So Moses and Aaron did as the ever-living commanded them. They did it. But Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 86 years old, when they spoke to Pharaoh. Thus the ever-living spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, "Since Pharaoh has said to you, 'Give us an evidence,' instruct Aaron, 'Take your rod and throw it down before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent.'" Moses and Aaron therefore went to Pharaoh, and did as the ever-living commanded, and he threw down his rod before Pharaoh, and before his ministers, and it became a serpent. But Pharaoh summoned the scientists and chemists, and they also did it, assisted by the engineers of the Mitzrayim, by their delusions. For each of them threw down their rods, and they became serpents, but the rod of Aaron swallowed their rods. However, the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not listen to them, as the ever-living had foretold. The ever-living then said to Moses, "The heart of Pharaoh is decided not to let the people depart. Confront Pharaoh in the morning when he goes to the bath, and stand to meet him at the bank of the river, and take the rod which turned to a serpent in your hand. Then say to him, 'The ever-living God of the Hebrews has sent me to you to say, Let my people go and serve me in the desert.' But if you will not listen to that, thus says the ever-living, by this you shall learn that I am the master, when I strike with the rod which is in my hand upon the waters which are in the river, they shall turn to blood. And the fish which are in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Mitzrites shall loathe to drink of the water of the river." The ever-living also said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, 'Take your rod and extend your hand over the waters of Mitzar, over the streams, over the brooks, the pools, and over all the reservoirs of water, and they shall become blood, and they shall be blood in all the land of the Mitzrites, both in wood and in stone.'" Therefore Moses and Aaron did as the ever-living commanded, and splashed with the rod and the hand the waters which were in the river before the eyes of Pharaoh and before the eyes of his ministers. And all the waters in the river turned to blood, and the fish which were in the river died, and the river stank, and the Mitzrites were not able to drink of the water from the river, for it became blood in all the land of the Mitzrayim. The engineers of Mitzar, however, did the same by their delusions. Therefore the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not listen to them, as the Ever-living had foretold. Pharaoh therefore turned his face and went to his palace, and did not alter his heart even for this. But all the Mitzrites dug pits along the river for water to drink, for they were not able to drink the waters from the river. This continued for 7 days after the Ever-living had struck the waters of the river. Then the Ever-living said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'Thus says the Ever-living, send my people away to serve me. But if you will not send them, then I will plague all your dominions with frogs, and the water shall swarm with frogs, and they shall crawl up and come into your palace and to your chamber, to your couch and up to your bed, and to the palaces of your ministers, and of your people, and to your daughters. In this way the frogs shall come up upon your people and ministers.'" Chapter 8. Then the Ever-living said to Moses, "Command your brother Aaron, extend your hand with your rod over the rivers and streams and lakes, so that the frogs may come up over the land of Mitzar." Aaron consequently extended his hand over the waters of Mitzar, and frogs came up and plagued the land of the Mitzrayim. The scientists, however, did the same by their engineering, and also brought up frogs upon the land of the Mitzrayim. Pharaoh, however, summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Entreat the Ever-living, that he may turn away the frogs from my sight and from my touch, when I will release the people, and they shall sacrifice to the Ever-living." But Moses replied to Pharaoh, "You threatened me you would kill me. Why should I pray for you and your ministers and your people to drive away the frogs from you and from your palace, except that there may be a few in the river?" He, however, entreated, "Do it tomorrow." And he returned, "It shall be done as you say, so that you may know that there is no Lord except our God. Therefore the frogs shall turn back from you, and from your palace, and from your ministers, and from your people, except that in the river there shall be a few." Then Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried to the Ever-living about the frogs, as he had promised to Pharaoh. And the Ever-living did as Moses had said, and killed the frogs in the houses, and in the streets, and in the fields, and the heaps of them corrupting rotted, and the country stunk. But when Pharaoh perceived the smell of them, then he hardened his heart and would not listen to them, as the Ever-living had foretold. Consequently the Ever-living said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, extend your rod, and beat the dust of the earth, and it shall become lice in all the land of the Mitzrayim." And he did so. When Aaron extended his hand with his rod in it, and struck the dust of the earth, it became lice in all the land of the Mitzrayim. The scientists also tried by their contrivances to produce the same, and bring forth lice, but they were not able. These lice assailed both men and beasts. Then the scientists reported to Pharaoh, "This is the product of God." But Pharaoh hardened his heart and would not listen to them, as the Ever-living had foretold. Therefore the Ever-living said to Moses, "Arise at daybreak and stand before Pharaoh when he goes to bathe, and say to him, 'Thus says the Ever-living, release my people that they may serve me. For if you do not release my people, I myself will release against you and your ministers and your people and your daughters gadflies. And the gadflies shall fill the houses of the Mitzrites, and also the land upon which they are. But at the same time it shall be different in the land of Goshen, where my people dwell. For the gadflies shall not be there, so that you may know that I am the Ever-living in the midst of the earth. I will also make a distinction between my people and your people. This shall occur tomorrow." And the Ever-living did it. For swarms of gadflies came into the palace of Pharaoh, and the palaces of his ministers, and to all the land of the Mitzrayim. The gadflies spread over all the country. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Go, sacrifice to your God in this country." But Moses replied, "We were not instructed to do so. For if we were to sacrifice the idol of the Mitzrites in their sight, would they not stone us? We must go 3 days' journey into the desert, and sacrifice to our ever-living God as he has commanded us." Then Pharaoh answered, "I will send you, and you shall sacrifice to your ever-living God in the desert.
only in separating go not a long journey. Now pray for me.
And Moses answered,
I will go out from you and pray, and entreat the ever-living, and he will turn away the gadflies from Pharaoh, and from his ministers, and from his people tomorrow. Nevertheless, Pharaoh will continue to oppose, and will not allow the people to go away to sacrifice to the ever-living.
Moses accordingly went out from the presence of Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord, and the ever-living answered Moses and removed the gadflies from Pharaoh and from his ministers and from his people, and none remained. Pharaoh, however, hardened his heart even after this, and would not release the people. The end of chapters 1 through 8 of the book of Exodus. Recording by Mark Penfold.